So happy to have the chance to meet and speak with Josh Biro, who's the founder of Yogapreneur Collective. You can find him at yogapreneurcollective.com. Josh, I'm so excited to have this chance to meet you. How are you doing?
Excellent, Todd. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to chat today.
Thank you. You help yoga practitioners, yoga teachers, and yoga studio owners succeed in business. How did you get started with all this?
Yeah, the superhero origin story to
Yeah.
say, I am a reluctant yogi even to this day. I grew up in a yoga family. My dad was super into it. Started out in the Ashtanga world a little bit. I think my first couple classes more publicly, I was like maybe 13, but I was the stiff hockey playing Canadian boy. So I just thought like, this isn't fun. It hurts. I'm the only other dude than my dad. And my dad's wearing like inappropriately tight, small shorts. uh like, why are we doing this? Like, what?
Yeah.
We got other things to do. But long story short, sort of dabbled, got back into it maybe around 1920, mostly for my wife. Got into Bikram yoga at the time. The heat was just like the missing element for me to figure out how to move and use my body properly. Fast forward again, after a few teacher trainings, managing, building, selling a studio, my wife and I went traveling full time in an RV. I like to say, like, we did the van life thing before it was cool. And
Yeah.
people were like, what? Like, you're going to drive around with your kids in a van? Um, but during that time, there's sort of like, and right prior to it, these two epiphany moments that happened for me. So one was when we set out opening our big studio in Canada, the intention was to build community and then also to spread like what we had experienced as such a life altering practice to other people. We just felt like called to do that. And if you can make a living doing that, like, why would you not? That just makes logical sense.
Yes.
I was always really surprised by how much resistance to the business part we were met with, though. Like yoga plus business, people would even say, like, well, those don't go together. We got turned down by like 7 banks, even though we fit all criteria for the funding, because they're like, well, yoga doesn't make money.
Mm.
So, yeah, I'll let you cut in there, talk a little bit.
Oh no, it's cool.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
yeah, I'm with you. No, I was agreeing with you that maybe even banks look at yoga practitioners like they can't be good at business. They're a yoga
right,
practitioner. How could they be good at business? Yeah. So that's interesting.
yeah.
Was it a Bikram
Well,
studio
I
that
was
you opened
thinking,
up?
we did open as a Bikram studio, yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
this is
funny too
where,
because
yeah,
I oh, that was in Red Deer, Alberta,
cool.
in Canada, yeah. Um, you know, I, if yoga is huge, yoke, connect, union, and you could extend that, in my opinion, to say yoga is everything, how is business not yoga and yoga not business?
Good point.
And in other ways, and we can get into it, yogis tend to be excellent business people. That's why we say yogapreneur. Once they personally reconcile the fact that the business is not at odds with their yoga practice. Um, but the point here was, we built up this big community and then we had a family tragedy and we lost a daughter 4 days before her second birthday in like
Oh,
a freak accident.
oh my gosh.
And that's the kind of thing that like you can't prep for that in life. That fucks you up.
Yes.
And I can tell you straight up, like, if I didn't have the sort of spiritual practice I had, if I didn't have that yoga practice base behind me to sort of grab onto, and then by extension on the business side, if we didn't have this community that really rallied around us when we needed it, I don't know if I'd have made it. I mean,
Wow.
there's so many other paths at that moment.
Oh my
So
gosh.
to me, yoga plus business, like, that was the personal proof of like, this is something even more powerful than I originally thought. Back to the van life, when we're traveling around, I think we stopped counting studios at maybe 125 or something like that. But what became very apparent, which to me was weird, was how often we would encounter a studio that had all of the formula for what could be a good business there, but then was struggling like unnecessarily. And that just didn't make any sense to me. So I had already been training sales teams at studios at that point, but that was the impetus to like really go into the sort of coaching side on the business, because I feel like even to this day, that's the best thing I can offer to help yoga continue to grow and inspire and help people. Yeah.
Nice. Amazing. What was your business history background prior to the opening of your own studio?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I grew up in a bit of an entrepreneurial family. My dad always had small businesses. Like my first job outside of mowing lawns or whatever for my grandparents was my dad was a chimney sweep. So I would finish school and then we would drive in this old like 79 International pickup truck and literally climb on the roof and sweep the chimneys of all the places.
Yeah.
So, that taught me shitty, dirty work. And it's
Yes.
what was required there. Um, I had a couple of my own businesses earlier on. I started a scuba company at one point, had a cleaning company, but it really was the yoga studio where like finally it kind of was able to pull these things together because we had managed a couple studios, helped build a couple of studios. When we finally opened ours, the vision when you first open a yoga studio for most yogis, I think, is probably similar. Ours was like, I was like going through the couch cushions to find nickels, like how do we get this thing open? But the
Yeah.
vision was if we can open the doors, teach all the yoga classes, we'll sleep in the back of the studio if we have to, and you know, eat some tofu and have a kombucha at the end of the day. Like life is good. That was the end of the line, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But once we got up and going, it became very apparent that like that vision has to, first off, that's not a full vision for a business. That's just getting open. But it has to expand because the demand is there. And it's really like the bigger mission or the bigger thing to fulfill or obligation, I suppose, is to make the business healthy so that we have the vehicle to be able to help the people who are coming to us asking for it.
Yes.
And in the extreme as a tangent, the comment about this business yoga juxtaposition is always like, if there's no reciprocity in it, then your enthusiasm wanes and you can't help anyone. Or worst case scenario, like if you can't pay the bills, fix the toilet, keep the lights on, you're not helping anybody. So
Yes.
we always say like, the businesses, especially yoga studios, are unique in our culture because they really are our vehicles of change. They're the thing that we can utilize, the tool, let's say, to take something that's revolutionary and bring it to the mainstream, like create respectability around it.
Great point.
Yeah.
I agree. You're
So
right.
my
That's a good
business,
vision for a studio. Yeah.
yeah. So to your question, I did some business courses or whatever, and in a couple of years of university before I dropped out, I worked in logistics in marine biology and stuff. Had some of my own businesses. I don't have an MBA. I didn't do anything like that. It was all on the ground, real time. So our business went from, you know, paying the bills and everything's fine to then when I kind of got really serious about, I need to crack the code of how does the business of yoga work, and really went after looking for mentorship and help in that, which at the time was really hard. There's kind of nobody. Um, I think we doubled and then doubled again the business in the first couple of years after that point,
Nice.
and then had like a consistent like 20% year over year growth, and then sold, bought a house, a couple cars, had kids, like the whole, like it supported our lives. I just thought that's what it meant to own a yoga studio. Um, so that's why when we were traveling, I was kind of floored. I'm like, what do you mean you're in a town of like 8 times the size of the one we were in, and you're not sure you're going to pay the staff next month? That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Interesting. I hear you, man. Well, that's what a cool journey to actually go travel by van and visit, like you said, somewhere around over 100 different studios and get that sort of broad angled view of what works, what doesn't work. What was one of the consistent things that you saw that, and I think you already brought up the fact that once we reconcile in our own minds that yoga and business can go together, and I don't have to turmoil with that every day, every time I have to make a decision about how to, profit more or make it grow. What was one of the main kind of couple things or thing that you saw that people just kept making mistakes at, or just was like a real classic stumbling block?
yeah, yeah. It's a really good question. It's changed. I should say, after physically, like getting to physically be on the ground in so many studios is, and even now traveling to studios is always interesting because you can kind of feel the studio. We used to say, like, I can go to a studio and teach a class, run the front desk at the class, take a class, and tell you a lot about what's going on in that business kind of instantly. And but then, we also work with businesses online across basically all English speaking markets. I've got my team of coaches as well. So we kind of have their hive minds together to talk about all this.
Yeah.
So if I consolidate all of that together, one of the first things is the first thing is that you should be optimizing for business at all. I mean, I think people see, even to this day, like it's less and less, but even to this day, people get on a call with us and they really have this vision of like, the do-gooder, passion, heart-led, I just want to save the world with some yoga. And if I do a really good job, people will come, like the product speaks for itself kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not casting any shade on that. You need that, in fact. And rather, you also need to like be smart in the business side of things. So the first thing, the mistake is like not thinking that you have a business. We'll even hear it in language. I've heard actual franchise brands say this, like, oh, I know we're a franchise, but really we're more of a family. Or like the studio being like, no, we're not a business, we're a community. And you're like, I mean,
Yeah.
you're an LLC,
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
business,
Yes.
So that would be number one. Hyper practical though, cash flow. The way I look at it, yoga business, you could, we try to approach it as holistic as what your yoga practice, breath, body, spirit, mind. But the first thing is breath, actually. You can do a yoga posture, but if you're not breathing according to the prescribed posture, you diminish the benefits and you can't stay there very long and everything else falls apart. So from a yoga teacher standpoint, it's like, what would you tell a student when they first come into any yoga class? Get on the mat and breathe, move your body a little bit. Like that's it. It's just breathe.
Yes.
If you take that to the business side, I would say that breath is to yoga what cash flow is to a yoga business. So practically speaking, it's trying to make a sale or trying to get more dollars per person or trying to make it more accessible in pricing or whatever, like all of these things that we hear about. But really, the first thing to optimize your yoga studio for or any yoga business is cash flow. You have whatever, 30,000 a month in expenses, and you have 40,000 a month in MRR. Guess what? You can breathe, which means you relax, which
Yeah.
means you stay grounded and centered, which means you can apply your creativity and
Great
all the
point.
other special sauce you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great point. Good point. My wife and I, we've had our studio here in Florida for the last 18 years, and we're loving doing it and so happy to do it. And I feel like it is a ton of work, right? It's like we're here every single day. And COVID was an incredible challenge. We had to let go of a lot of
Mm-hmm.
teachers and just like almost restart the business over again and just come in from the
Yeah.
ground floor and like teach every single class. And I feel like things have really improved since then. This last year, we had one of our best years since the kind of fallout of COVID. Um, but I meet a lot of people that open and close studios regularly. And my advice for them is like, you got to really love what you do. Like, definitely don't open a studio if you are. I guess let me bring this up and see what you think. Sometimes I say to people,
Yeah.
maybe my languaging is completely off with this. And I can already know what your answer is going to be, but sometimes I'll say to like yoga teacher trainings, like teacher trainers, when they go, oh, I just want to open a studio, I'll say, well, you really got to love it first because you're not going to make a ton of money doing it. Like you have to really love it because you won't make like it's tough. It's hard to
Yeah.
make it every single month. So, but I understand. I kind of can guess where you're going to go, but how would you answer me?
Yeah. Well, my story aside, I've got a studio owner right now. They've been in business for, they're coming on 17 years. Business has been around for a while. And, they've built the business up, single location studio, grows over seven figures, and they live with their family in Costa Rica. They're not even there.
Nice.
They don't teach a class. No one knows. Like half the new people coming don't even know who owns the studio anymore.
Wow.
Or another owner I can think of in another city. Studio's been there a long time, over 20 years at this point. She's so removed from the business, she can go in and take class, and some of her own teachers don't know who she is. Like, unless someone points her out. And same thing, like that's their primary family income, one location. And then that's not even talking about multi-locations or adding different product lines, etc. So I think that Todd, to your point, like the nature behind that comment is a positive one in the warning of truth. It's like we want to speak truth and we want to speak to the fact that you're right. Being an entrepreneur in any business, but a yoga studio is the best testing ground, is a little bit like deciding you're going to get up every morning and have someone punch you in the face and then get up and do it again tomorrow. And that's weird. And as a yogi, not exactly what you want to be doing, right? So I think that the truth of that being positive, the financing side of it, or what's possible as an outcome, the problem is that there are these narratives, especially negative business narratives, that are perpetuated in the yoga world. And it's not that they're untrue, but rather they're not in balance. If someone is crushing it, like if you own a yoga studio and you have 30% margin on the gross and you personally are taking out 20% and you're doing $800,000 a year in sales and you're 30 years old, like that's a great business by any account whatsoever.
Yes.
You're not going on Facebook yoga teachers group and be like, guess what, guys, crushing it. Like no one's talking about that. So it's kind of like a lopsided weight or like an overweighted narrative to the struggle part of it. I felt like I've spent a lot of my career fighting against that to try to balance it back out and just say like, yeah, you're right. Like it can be really shitty and hard. And there are moments you're going to have to hustle and grind. And when you first open, you're probably flying by the seat of your pants. That's all normal, but that's kind of part of the fun, which I can get to in a second.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you should accept that as the truth of how it will be, period.
Great point. I mean, the mindset is so tremendous, right? I mean, what a huge, you have to have the mindset in place. I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate hearing this. Thank you. Do in relation to the trend that's evolved from brick and mortar to online courses, online teacher training, I noticed that like we were charging in the past, say for a 200-hour teacher training could be anywhere between like $2,000 to $3,000. And I know some go higher than that. And we can go online right now and type in for yoga online teacher training for $100.
Yeah,
And
totally.
and obviously there's quality versus quantity, and is the you might be able to pay more to be in a studio with teachers that have been at it for a long time, and therefore the quality of the experience will be a little greater than if you just watch a couple videos and then answer yes, no, A, B, C, D, and then get a certificate. But what are you witnessing in relation to that broad perspective of multiple businesses and the online world? In like which way do you recommend going these days? What are you seeing is
Yeah.
working? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one to usually say that there's like a one size fits all. There are a few like best business practices, trends, things that we see that like to me make sense because they're really just based out of like human behavior. So the example being, as it stands today, in my opinion, and I think most yogis who practice regularly would agree, nothing will completely replace me being in the physical class with you, leading the class, paying attention, engaging me, holding the space, the sound, the vibe, the energy, this, all of it, like that has a unique value. And actually COVID did everyone a favor because yoga, if we look at the pricing of your monthly yoga membership since 2005, all the way up to 2019, it doesn't go up. Like it stays the same and inflation goes up. It even goes down in some markets.
Good point.
So we had a weird pricing problem. And part of that was the public had the wrong frame. And we did this to ourselves. We rhetorically, the yoga world, we kind of accidentally devalued what we were doing in our attempt to make things accessible and inclusive. And we, in my opinion, misappropriated what those words really mean. So in any case, COVID then reframed for a lot of people like, wait, now that I can't go into the studio and I can't have you in front of me and I can't have the teacher holding it and I don't like the Zoom thing and the online thing or whatever, now coming out of it, there's a higher perceived value in the actual in-person stuff. So I do think that's one sort of element of this that I don't see going anywhere. So when people say stuff like, yoga studios are going to get eaten up by online stuff, I don't see that. I don't see why that would happen. I
Yeah.
think bad businesses will die off because businesses die off if they're not good, but I don't think it has anything to do with those being at odds. The online stuff, you know, I think it's smart to be aware of it. I mean, I think about my son. I have a 13-year-old son, and like his life is his phone and his computer and his like, his whole reality. And I didn't grow up like that. So I almost can't relate to it. Like I'm almost naive to his perspective of reality via these things. And we're a family that, you know, is pretty open about it, but is very conscious of like that not being the only reality he's existing in as well. Um, so I do feel like online virtual stuff will continue to grow. And I think where it can potentially be powerful for a business right now is to supplement or add more value. It's like a way that you can create something that's more evergreen for your business. If you're going to go just digital, that's an option too. And that kind of decision to say that it does or doesn't work, I can give you 20 examples of where that doesn't work and 20 where it does,
Yeah. Yes.
that's really more like you as a person behind the scenes, like who are you? And also, what are you trying to create? Like, what are you trying to build in your business? What kind of business are you trying to build? Are you trying to build an online business? Then cool. But that's like a really different endeavor than a physical studio or even hybrid for that matter.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to add to the teacher training thing. It's like almost its own branch of conversation.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing where in another life, much earlier, I was a scuba instructor. So I went through like every scuba training you could do basically at the time. Um, and then I remember I went in, worked in Thailand for like, I don't know, 3 months or 6 months or something like that, teaching scuba diving. And there, like, it became like this joke. Like if you were traveling around at that time and you're like, oh, I'm a dive master, I'm a dive instructor, like everybody was, because it was just a system of creating them. So that certification didn't hold any respect. It didn't like actually mean that you knew anything. The yoga world and teacher trainings have done this with being a yoga teacher. Like everyone's a yoga teacher is how it seems. And we're seeing the shakeout of that now in a
Yeah.
couple different ways.
Yes.
So one is because there's no governing body, and like this is an unpopular opinion. I don't actually have any like, again, not to cast any shade, but like Yoga Alliance doesn't mean anything. It's just a made up thing. So we can put some letters behind a name, so they can take your $20 or whatever. So even that, the closest thing to a certification program we have, like there isn't really any governing body that's serious, that's like licensing or something. So to say you're a yoga teacher itself doesn't count for anything. And the spillover is that now there's a devalue in the sort of lifestyle of becoming a yoga teacher. So we actually see less demand. There's more inventory to take yoga teacher training. So prices go down. I mean, it's kind of simple supply and demand stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and the really weird thing, this is the first time in my time doing yoga business where we're seeing in a lot of markets like a real shortage of teachers. There are not enough yoga teachers. Like there's enough certified teachers out there in the world for sure, but for a studio to get
Ooh,
like
good
that core nucleus of people who
point.
just want to really teach and it's like hone their craft, it's hard right now in some markets. It's really hard.
Great point. You're absolutely right. I'm going to agree with everything you said all the way through, going all the way back to when you started naming the pricing trend up to 2019, the realization of the value of importance, the ability to increase without the fear of being accessible. Um, and just coming true to the fact that if I want to survive and be thriving, this is what it takes. And then also what you're saying too about the teacher trainings, you got your finger on the pulse. I agree with everything. And it's interesting too that there's a gluttony of yoga certified individuals and a shortage of finding good teachers that actually want to show up and get really excited about doing it on a consistent basis. So where's our
Yeah.
solution? We definitely
Yeah.
listed the problems. We got our problems handled
Now,
now. And
now how do we
and
fix it? Yeah.
and yeah, and I liked on your website you said like what are the three things why you don't want to work with us, like why. And one of them was that this isn't a quick fix all, like a get rich quick, and it's not going to fix everything. There's like we have to source out solutions and continuously find solutions, which I really appreciate that you're being honest and real about the business reality. You have to constantly be moving and shifting and being willing to try new things, and that's what keeps it going. But
Yeah.
any solutions that you're finding you're coaching your clients on that are working these days?
Yeah. I mean, on the most macro level, we use like our framework is called the Yogapreneur framework, which is just like that's what we've developed over a decade now. But it's not like a program A to Z, you just do exactly this. It's rather a framework of like, we know we need to look at all of these things, and then we need to apply a critical thinking mindset to it, just like your yoga posture. I already know you call triangle, I know what we're doing. But then I have to enter the posture with consciousness, and then I have to be holding the stillness enough to see what's happening in my body right now today, and then adjust. So the business is exactly the same thing. We already know that you're going to have to figure out cash flow. That we already know more or less the path towards that, but the specificity is unique to your studio. So it's really like looking at it from that critical thinking mindset.
Yes.
This is a long-winded way of saying the difference between like a small business owner and a yoga entrepreneur is that a small business owner loves what they do. And once you become an entrepreneur, the yogapreneur, you learn to love what it takes. So
All said.
the comment that you'll hear that is different is instead of saying, I do or don't like doing this thing in my business, therefore I will or won't do it, like that's not even the conversation anymore. I'm attempting to accomplish this thing in my business, and this is the hurdle that I need to solve for. That's the transition.
Yeah.
And when you've done that, then one, it really puts a lot more joy back into what you're doing. But I think also, how do we solve this? It really is realizing that if you're a yoga studio, for example, or even if you're a teacher doing your own teacher thing, and you look out into the market or you look down the street at what other people are doing, and you say, well, that guy's doing that, so I'm going to try that, or they're priced like this, so I'll do that, or oh, they offer that, so maybe I'll try it, or someone told me that thing's popular, this teacher told me their class over there is good, I'll do it too. The yoga world's always operated like that. It's a little incestuous, actually. The problem is you don't know if they're making money. You know if it's working. Like, unless you're going to walk down there and ask them, be like, hey, Todd, I see that you added this new class. Like, what's your margin on that? And are you going to tell them? Like, there's a little
Mhm.
tension there too. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit more of like, again, everything I know about business, I know it from yoga. Yeah, there's a class of 30 yoga students, and you can look around and see what everyone else is doing, but you don't know how they're feeling in the posture. And really, that's none of your business. It doesn't matter. You're doing your yoga practice. So it's your business. It is good to know what's happening in the market, but then at some point, how do you solve this? You have to look at what are you trying to do? What's the current issue that you're experiencing that would be blocking that from happening? And what are the possible paths forward for that? And then you start testing.
Yes. Great point. Agreed 100%. In relation to tools that we are gaining access to and the speed with which technology is advancing, what would you say is one of the most powerful tools as a yoga teacher and or studio owner do we have at our fingertips now, and that you feel we should start engaging with?
Yeah. I know where this is leading. We're getting to the AI conversation and automation stuff. So, um, honestly, that's even jumping ahead of the nature of the question, because bluntly, the 8 out of 10 yoga business owners, like, they know what AI is. They probably jumped on ChatGPT and typed some things in, but it's like they're leapfrogging over all these other things. It's barely even, they're considering it as like this interesting thing that's happening, rather than realizing we're talking about, on a fundamental level, changing what work looks like completely.
Mm,
This is the internet in 1995.
yeah.
So the reason that matters, to go back to our previous point, like, what are some of the solutions? Well, if you want the best teachers, the A players, you're going to have to pay them. Because if I'm a yoga teacher and I'm really great, my class is always full, and I get a following and I build myself up and I do my online thing, at some point it's not advantageous to work for you. So that's the natural tension of the equation, which just means, as a studio, you've got to be able to pay them. But it doesn't mean that we empower them by saying, like, I'm enslaved to my employees, I have to pay you more because they need you so desperately. Please teach a yoga class for me. We still have to maintain, like, this is the brand and the expectations here. The ability to pay them comes from what you're able to charge your clients and the volume of cash that you have coming in, et cetera. So it's like you pull one lever and this moves and this one there. So the whole equation is like recalibrating, honestly. When we talk about technology and AI, this is an interesting time, because if I come in, and most studios would have an intro pass, maybe 2 weeks or a month or something like that, what happens, like, and I purchase it, what happens next? Like, what happens for those 30 days? And this is obvious stuff for a lot of people listening, I'm sure. But if I have purchased a 30-day pass with you, I've also, in some way, opted in to participating with you for 30 days. That participation is not only just in a studio. So, do you phone me? Do you text me? Do you send me an email? People say, I don't want to spam people with email. You're right. You shouldn't spam people with email, but that doesn't mean don't email them. Like, if you're sending someone an email and you think it's spam, it's because the content of your email is shit, not because you sent an email. And then how many emails do you send? And then the other thing is, like, what are you going to write the emails manually and click send on your Gmail account? No way. You've got to automate that. Then there's a response. So it's the automation component of it, where it's like your capacity to do work is increasing. Where the AI stuff comes in and starts to get fascinating now, even if we're talking about on the basic level of, like, this lets you go from zero to first draft in half the time for something that you would have done in the past. It's almost like, without another person, you can have a sounding board as well. So where it comes in is in this exponential increase in your capacity to do work. There's only 3 ways you grow your business. You can increase the number of people coming in, your leads. You can increase the value per person, your lifetime value, or you can increase your capacity to work. Capacity is literally the number of people you can handle, but it's also you and your team's capacity, like, how much work can you get done in the same amount of time? You and I have the same number of hours in a day. So
Yeah.
if
True.
I outperform, if we both work 8 hours, like, if you work 16 and I work 8, but we get the same amount of work done, are you a harder worker than me? Or are you just telling me that you're not as smart at working, right? Or we both work the same 8 hours, but I get this result and you get that result times 4. One of us is doing better work. So when we talk about capacity of work, increasing capacity, it's a little bit of efficiency, but it's also just like mental, energetic capacity, speed as
Yes.
well. So that's where some of these tools are really, automation and AI is now a component that are really becoming fascinating and empowering, I think.
Can you give an example that you are seeing yoga studios? What to what capacity is the AI seemingly working well? Like, for example, I'm noticing every single software that I integrate with, be it Zoom, be it Otter AI, be it Decipher, be it Mind Body Online, be it all these different softwares, they're all giving me the option, my email, my constant contact. let
Yeah,
us write the email for you. Type in a few words that you want to write about. And it's incredible because if you use that little prompt and it gets the ball rolling, it just like sometimes I'll be sitting there going, what in the heck am I going to talk about today? But if it just helps me get the ball rolling, I can go in,
exactly.
clean it up, comb through it, and then boom, I got it done. And I'm finding it's working out amazing. But I'm just curious and I know it's very specific based on what skill and what job you're attempting to achieve, but is there something that you're seeing from the macro level that is working well?
Yeah, I think across basically all AI platforms, the like first iteration, the first draft of something, it's the speed to first draft.
Yeah.
So, because you can sit down and just put a prompt in, and the prompt can be kind of shitty, but it'll just get something going. And sometimes for a lot of us, especially actually, I think the more expertise you have in a subject matter, the more failure to launch is possibly there. It's not even a procrastination, it's like an overthinking thing. Like, I know all of these details, but how do I pull them together and now put it into this email? Well, and I sit there and I mess around with them. No, I don't like that. It's the old 1990s movie, crumple up the paper and throw it in the waistband kind of thing.
Yeah.
Draft number 5,
Yes.
it's like, now just start, because what's being thrown in our face is something we all inherently know, but we're only now really experiencing in real time, which is that knowledge isn't power, especially not in the era of the internet. We have access to an insane amount of knowledge. And with AI, like, the speed of finding that is insane too. Knowledge put into action is power. So the
Mm,
people who win in this next era are the ones who take action and do the thing. They follow through.
yeah. Great
So how
point.
much anyone knows, irrelevant.
Irrelevant. How are you noticing with
Um,
your 13-year-old son in relation to the relevance of going to school? I have a 17-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter.
yep.
I'm watching the way that school is operating, the way that when I went to school, and then just the simple fact that now they're interacting with AI and the internet. I guess it almost seems obsolete. And no, I take it back to, I mean, I love studying. I love reading. I'm a huge fan of reading, a huge fan of studying, a huge fan of learning. So I'm not trying to say that kids don't need to go to school nowadays to learn. We definitely need to learn. So I'm not going there, but it's almost like obsolete to go to school because, like
Yeah.
remember back in the old days? I mean, we had to like study and read the whole entire chapter in the book and then ready for the test and
Totally.
hopefully memorize enough of that information. And now in the real world situation, even like what you're doing in terms of coaching people, if you have a question, you're going to go straight online and you're going to ask it and you're going to find the answer. So I'm just curious, what are you noticing, witnessing just as a father and a parent or a parent and a business coach in relation to that?
Yeah, let me tie these three components together, because I'll go back to your
Please.
previous question
Please.
as well in this. So the first thing I'm noticing is the potential of speed, hence the first drafting thing. Here's another really practical example, right? If you're using Mindbody online, that's probably the platform that still currently, as it stands today, has the best total capability of reporting if you know really how to use it. There are other ones that are catching up to it. But platforms that have not as good capability of reporting usually have the ability to export a report. And because of that CSV file you can now upload that into AI. And then you can do that times 3 or 4 different reports. And what would have taken a data analyst like 2 days of moving things around and blah, 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 to like come up with a report to cross-reference through everything, you can do in 5 minutes.
Whoa.
So
Yeah.
what's interesting about, right, like, now we can, that critical mindset of how do we approach the business, we can take these things, like, the data is there, the data is the quote knowledge, but you're not empowered unless you can use it. The use of it before, it was like the cost benefit of trying to figure it out wasn't there, but now because of this speed, it is. So practically in the business, there's like things we can look at now, with a more critical eye and optimize over time much easier than we could before. And that will become more the consumer expectation, that you're optimizing for them. When it comes to school, I see a similar thing where I find it really comical. There's like a big push for a little while, maybe a year ago or even two, like kind of shouldn't be allowed in the classroom and that sort of stuff. And I was like, there's no way this is stopping. Like I'm the exact opposite. This is absolutely should be embraced immediately because it's going to happen anyways. So I think the difference is with my son at 13, like he's smart and he will try to use Gemini or try to use ChatGPT to get the job done so he can be finished and move on to the thing he really wants to do. So that to me is a problem. On the other hand, if he's enthralled in what it is he's doing and he's using this tool to do research and then to ask a question and understand it better, like that is what learning is. So, and he can, consolidate the information down into the real like core components of what needs to be understood on a deep level of real knowledge so that it can there be applied in the real world rather than like memorizing a bunch of data points, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Then it could be really positive. And you said something to this effect, Todd, or at least it pinged this for me. It's like, for me, for my kids, I think about like, I really love learning now too. If I was 13, would I have ever said like, I love learning? No. I would have said like, I love hockey,
Yeah.
So I think anything for my kids that can keep them engaged and have them enthusiastic about learning in itself, like that's the thing I want for them.
Yeah. Yes. Good point. Yeah, I see that.
Because
100%.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then on the business side of things, this branches a little over to marketing when we talk about learning in my mind too. I would say that marketing is an exercise of memorization. If I can't remember you, I can't do business with you. So to build your brand, the goal is the appropriate person has to like hold you in their brain. And how does that happen? Novelty. Something has to be new and get us excited. Outside of the box, it's so different that we have to tell someone else about it, right? And then repetition. Like I have to see it, I have to see it again, I have to see it from a new angle, I have to see it from this angle, I have to hear it again and again and again and again.
So true.
So when we talk about learning, I think the other element with any of this, business, kids, whatever, is the ability to look at the same subject from this side and then look at it from this side, look at it from this side, and to do that more like thorough analysis and look at something so that we get all the different novel perspectives in a repetitious way. And the speed at which that can happen now,
Good
exponentially
point.
faster than before.
Good point. It's amazing too, because like, how long have we even had ChatGPT in our sphere? Has it been a year now?
Right.
Has it been a year? Has it even been a year? It's probably been about a year. I don't know the date. I don't remember when it was released. I don't even know if it's been a whole year.
Yeah, I think GPT-3 was maybe almost 2 years now, but
Years. All right.
no, that might not be even true. It might be less than that. That to your point though, Todd, you're right. It's like we don't understand like we've already passed this moment in time, but I think that it hasn't like hit the public yet. It'll probably be like your kids and my kids' age that really understand this inherently.
Yeah.
The speed at which technology progresses is faster than the human brain is wired to learn. Like we can't, it's not even possible to stay up on top of it anymore. And that's a really interesting place to be. So,
True.
and with AI, the growth curve is not linear. It's very exponential, right? So it's like GPT 3 to 3.5, 3.5 to 4. We're not talking like it's twice as good, it's 4 times as good, which means the next one is 16 times better. And the next one after that's 32. So what is that in 3? We're not talking about 20 years from now. We're talking about 3 years from now, 5 years from now. What does that look like? It's not the same thing.
I hear
Here's
you. It's impossible for us to even really wrap the mind around, isn't it? Like I was watching this show on Netflix about my wife will joke with me right now, but it's about the Neanderthals, and she's like, "Why do you have to say Neanderthals? It's Neanderthal." And I'm like, "Well, the whole show said Neanderthal, so I'm going with what the show says." So anyway, but like
yeah.
the Neanderthals were, you know, we have in our DNA Neanderthal DNA, and there was like a span of about 300,000 years where Neanderthals were walking around on planet Earth. Then there was about a 40,000 year gap where they weren't, and Homo sapiens was on the rise. And I mean, when I try to wrap my head around that and think like you and I and a version of you and I, and if we think about a version of say chat of like AI, this version of AI is just coming out, and within 2 years, it's already transformed everything and the speed with which we can work and the way with which we're working and the way with we're, but it took 300,000 of Neanderthal history and then a huge
Yeah.
gap of 40,000 years before we even have present understanding of like say 5 or 6,000 years ago in relation to the origins of religion and history, uh,
Yeah.
humanity. So it's hard to even comprehend. It's like we're living in this, the world is absolutely incredible. And I think I love the way you're framing everything. It's very, I like the way you see the world. I appreciate the way you're framing this because it's embracing it. We have to embrace it. We have no choice but to embrace it at this point. But can we even comprehend what's going on? It's unbelievable. But thank you for staying on top of it and for gearing us along here.
Well,
Um,
thank you for saying.
yeah, I mean,
You make me. Oh, I was going to say, Todd,
no, no, please.
you make me think of the yugas, right? Like, I think it's Sadhguru got asked once, because debatably 2012, that event was a movement out of Kali Yuga into Dwapara Yuga. And someone asked, like, is that what happened? And he says, if I tell you we're in Dwapara Yuga tomorrow, do you wake up and do anything different?
Mm,
And they're like, well, no. And he's like, so who cares?
yeah,
But
like it
yeah,
literally
it's an
changes.
interesting question. But
Yeah,
but like we're talking about this like hundreds of thousands of years, enormous cycle. And I guess the idea being like we can't contemplate if we were to simplify it, tied into Egyptian or Mayan philosophy that's parallel to this. Like if we're in the Bronze Age now, out of the Iron Age, we're going to move into the Silver Age. Like even the Silver Age, the next epoch that we'll move through, like our brains can't even fathom what that is, like what that looks like.
yeah,
So it's not even that we need to kind of worry about it, but rather be in the moment of now and worry about what can we control, tying together with business, education, all this stuff. You don't have to understand exactly how something works to be able to utilize the tool. I don't need to know exactly the inner workings of how my iPhone works to use my iPhone,
correct.
like to positively enhance my life. So AI is a little bit like that. That being said, I do have to understand the larger perspective, the sort of critical thinking part of like, why would I use my phone? So if I could say like, okay, I own a business, I'm going to buy this iPhone. It's got this camera so that I can make these marketing videos. Then I'm going to use it to then edit on the phone through this app, which I'm then going to upload to this place, social media, where other people are going to see it. I still have to have this bigger perspective of how it fits into what I need in my life. So I think that's the part that we're getting to experience in business right now, but probably also in education. It's ripe for upset. So that'll be part of that too. It's like, if you know the specific detail, this calculation, that, whatever in business, like I don't know if that matters, but the
Yeah,
bigger perspective of this is a vehicle of change. It's going to create this impact in the world. The reciprocity is it's going to build this lifestyle for me. And I need to look at it like, what's the path towards that? If something's blocking it, is it that my philosophy of approach, like my strategy is wrong? Is it that my strategy is right? I just need more? Is
mm,
it that this is a little tweak? Is it that it's an implementation thing? Like it's just that
yeah,
as the owner, you always have that bigger perspective, and then you're pulling in any of these tools and any of this to figure it all out. So it's going to make us, I think, ultimately an AI side. Like the moment that we're in, to me, gets exciting because it feels very yogic. It
yeah,
feels like we're in a big yoga class, and it's like, yeah, you know what
yeah,
the posture is, but that doesn't mean you know how it's going to feel when you get in it. Like, are you going to love it today or hate it? Or like anyone who's practiced long enough can tell you posture was your favorite when you started, you might have hated for a whole year. at another point, and vice versa with something else.
Good point. Good point. And
Yeah.
I like going back to what you brought up initially, that the yoga studio potentially is a place where this evolutionary process really can accelerate. And I think I'll see if you agree with me or not, but because of the entrepreneur married with the blended and married with the yogi, the yogic mind and the entrepreneurial mind creates a space where things can move faster. I do think that personally, because I'm able to interact with all these different new platforms and teach in person in my studio, but also be here with you now. I don't know where you are. Where are you actually in the world?
I'm in Mexico, actually.
Nice. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My kids go
And
to school in Mexico here. So yeah, we're here during the
awesome.
school year.
Awesome. In Sayulita, I did see that on your website. Are you in Sayulita?
Yeah, we live in Sayulita. My son goes to school in Puerto Vallarta. There's an international
Nice.
school in town here.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
as well. So
And
yeah.
the fact that we even got this far in the conversation, that is almost obsolete on some level, right? Like we're in an alternate universe where,
Yeah.
we're now conversing, and I guess the point being that I think that yoga studio and yoga people are embracing these technologies and now making it known so that people are like, okay, let's actually do this. Let's blend these incredible tools with yoga. So I do agree with you. I feel like we're in a very yogic age in relation
Yeah.
to the speed our brain is moving and the speed of technology, where now that it is moving faster than our brains, we do have to just chill out and relax right now and just watch, but be active and keep our businesses running. But I don't know. I hear you, man. It's incredible. I'm very excited about what the future holds, to be honest.
I am too. And I think it's easy. And I personally have gone through the waves of this too. Like it's easy amidst all of the insanity in the world too, because it is there to look at things from a very dystopian viewpoint. But, you know, by most measurable data points, like we're doing pretty good
Yeah.
and we're moving in the right direction. And, speaking of the kids, like I don't know what work looks like. I don't know what things look like for them in 20 years. Like
Good
it's
point.
actually, I think I'm not 100% sure that my parents would have said exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I think they could have called, like I'm doing some things different than they would have thought of. There's definitely tech out that's different, but they would have still, like I'm not working that. I guess I work online, so that's the major change from like my father
Yep.
or my grandfather.
Great
But
point.
like I think I can't even predict
Yeah.
what it looks like
Good point.
for my son. So
Well,
um,
maybe in
in
the
any case,
way.
I think
Yeah.
the utopian part of it is like I think I almost you almost have to look at it that way. Like
Yeah. To
yeah,
keep our mental health in a positive
totally.
place, right? Because if we mental
Yeah,
health is huge, and if we don't actively choose how to see the world, it will pull us down the dystopian path for sure, or it can.
yeah,
And I tend to think like what a statement that you made earlier regarding the one of the benefits of COVID was that then when we were not allowed to be in studio, it gave us a greater appreciation for when we were able to return. We took it for granted. We realized we weren't able, and then we came back to it. And I've been thinking lately in relation to like I'll use AI to write some stuff, and then I'll also consciously journal so that I do like an organic writing. And I know the way food is gone is that like now we pay a little more for organic produce. And I have a feeling that the AI is going to get so intense that we're going to want to be a little more back to the human element. So we'll have maybe
yes,
we'll have labels on our content. This
yeah,
is an artificially generated content. This is organic content. And I don't know that there'll be a way to disprove or prove it. However, I just think the process of currently now knowing that I can go in on AI, have my prompts written and everything done for me and blah, to hand write in a journal my feelings, thoughts, and what I gained out of today. There's a lot of value in that. So I'm a fan of implementing both and still going analog, still taking out a pen. I still have a record player. I still get in the ocean and surf. Like I want to be in the environment and using analog stuff, but I think we can do both.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be
Yeah.
possible. And the hope is that the AI element will just enhance our organic experience, our organic writing, our organic being in the ocean, digging our hands in the soil, hanging out with our kids. I do. That's my hope anyway. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I see it. I resonate with what you're saying, Todd. I look at it like a lot of the brass tacks customer service stuff, the stuff that like actually as a studio owner, as the example, or if you're a solo yoga entrepreneur out there, like teacher trying to do the corporate thing or whatever, like it's the stuff that will hit you in the face. You do have to offer customer service. You do have to have sort of an HR relationship with your employees, etc. Those are the things that wear you down over time. So where some of this tech comes in is it simplifies the like automated, easy response, but still gives the customer side of it. Like it's imagine I can go onto your website and I can just like have a conversation with quote you, your website, to get the information I need, and you're not spending time doing that, and you can curate that and it can improve itself over time based off of its interactions. So
Yeah.
now you're not handling any of that, which means like what are you going to do? Well, you can do more somewhere else in the business. But then the big detail I think is then when I come into the studio and you're there face to face, that's where you've like honed your craft.
Yes.
we do um we do sales trainings, even like physically go to studios and do sales trainings because we can do them online. We have online courses for it. We can train an owner how to train their team on it. This it's just more powerful for their face to face, and that's one of the things that we talk about is like there's no email that I can write or an AI at this point, and there is no text message that I can send you, including an AI, um, that will ever be more powerful than you and I face to face within a certain proximity having a conversation, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Even if the wording is more perfect, and it's the nature of like the energetic element of it.
Yes.
And we talk about it from like a communication, human relation standpoint. 55% of your communication is body language, 38% is tone, only 7% of the words. The words can be perfect, but it means a lot if I'm there facing you and I'm engaging you. And there's also these like unwritten things that we know. I'll give you a really specific example. Traveling, we experienced this and we've tested it a few times sort of for quote fun. I'll walk into a yoga studio and not say anything. Just walk in like I'm brand new. I have not pre-registered or whatever. And just stand in the front lobby, just see how long it takes until someone engages me.
Mm.
And then what happens next? Like, what am I offered? How am I shown around? How am I greeted? Like, who am I, like, what's that process?
Yes.
And in the yoga world, unfortunately, it's like a pretty wide array of what you could get. Like, you could stand in a lobby for a long time in studios.
Yes.
Um, Meanwhile, the person teaching the class and the front desk are having really in-depth, engaging conversations with a long-term member because they know that person.
Yeah.
Versus a well-trained studio who's really in service of the person coming in goes, oh, I know that the priority would be someone who's brand new because the person who comes here 5 days a week, I don't talk to them as much today. They're going to be okay and come back tomorrow, but I can only make a first impression once. And then they're actively looking like, oh, is it your first time? And right away they're on it. And then I feel seen. It doesn't matter even what you say, like just that feeling element of it. You can't fake that. So I think that like honing that craft, like the real like human stuff, that's what's left. And that's what's going to be a big differentiator in business. But I think just also in life, it's going to be like a cool place to
I
operate
agree.
from.
I agree. Josh, I have one more question for you. I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking time out of your day, and I love this opportunity. Have you ever seen that show Bar Rescue?
Yeah.
Would you ever think about doing a show like that? It'd be so cool if you took your skills
I
and
would.
went into a studio,
Yeah.
have a production team, film it. Because one thing I love about Bar Rescue is, I mean, I love watching that transformation where he just comes in, he's so honest and real. And he does exactly what you're doing. You guys are doing the same thing. You're looking and you're seeing right away. I love how you said that. I can walk in, and how many seconds did it take for you to actually make eye contact with me? Right. I'm just standing in the lobby, like, and making you feel welcome right away, the moment, or even opening the door for you, like being there, right? That, you know what I mean? Like, that's huge.
These little
That's
things. Yeah.
enormous. So it'd be so cool if you had a TV show that demonstrated those yoga studio owners like a full transformation. I don't know. I know it's a big project, but if you need some ideas
No, it's,
to go, that would be awesome. I would love to watch you do
yeah, dude. I'm 100% for it. We actually, this concept we've talked about a lot throughout the years. We have made a couple little episodes,
no way.
having
You
gone
have.
to studios or
Yeah.
whatever, so you can
Yeah.
find them on the YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
They're just like me and like my friend Selena with one camera, like they're
Yeah.
pretty simple, but
Yeah.
um, I'll tell here's the like the thing I've learned about it actually. Because I was really stuck on it to the point I'm like, maybe we just really invest in going that route for a while. Because the stories are the thing that like we can live through vicariously and learn a lot from. The problem is most of reality TV needs controversy. So we're like not just looking for like how do I help the studio, we're looking for like how do we have a conflict between me and the person, and how does like the camera crew like get the staff, like there's a lot of behind the scenes kind of shenanigans that's really in my mind not not the yoga part of it. So
Yeah. Good
that's
point.
that's been a funny element. That said, I do feel like there's an opportunity for something like that. It just looks, it would be its own thing. It would be like, okay, we've seen the bar rescue game or whatever. We've seen the Prophet. We've seen these things like that. Like, what's the yoga version of that? So I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm open to any suggestions, but I do
All
feel
right.
like those stories are ones to be told for sure.
That's a good point. Well, cool, man. I learned so much. If people are struggling in their business, they can reach out to you, and you have a whole team, yourself included,
Yeah,
that can help coach me, can help coach anybody that's aiming to make this work and thrive.
yeah, yeah. We work with yoga entrepreneurs. We define that as you like are legitimately running a business. So if you're just a teacher and you're like, hey, I want to like do my thing and teach a corporate class or something, there's a lot of resources for you out there. That's not our specialty. But if you're in a brick and mortar yoga studio, or multiple for that matter, or you're doing like a bigger online thing, and this is like a legitimate, you're investing your blood, sweat, tears, time, money into this thing, like that's who we are. That's what all of my coaches as well. They've all like made their living off of this as well and have proven it. And we're here to help. Yeah,
cool, man. It feels good. It feels good to know that there is help. I mean, there's times when you're running a business where you feel helpless and alone. So, knowing that you've set your business up now to actually facilitate these situations, it's great, man. And we need all of we all have to come together, I think.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool,
Well, I
man.
think I'll echo that one comment, Todd. That just the yoga world has had this weird, I said earlier, like incestuousness to it. Uh, Almost to a little bit of a negative impact because it's not based off of like anything else. And then at the same time, there's this weird tension of like, despite the copying each other and wanting to know what each other are doing, like people are not as sharing. Like there's a scarcity mindset. And I feel like that's one of the things that I'm starting to see change. There's still some old guard that don't want to let go of it, but like if you're in a yoga business, like you're not competing against other yoga businesses. Not really. You're only competing against yourself. And what you're really competing against is everything else that takes someone's attention. So yeah, I mean, part of our mission is, primarily it's get the business functioning properly, make you more money, give you that ethically affluent lifestyle. But it's also, yeah, you're isolated at the top. How do we get, yoga entrepreneurs together having just down to earth conversations?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're all gonna, but like the rising tide rises all ships. So
Yes. That's my fave. Man, thank you so much, Josh. I really appreciate this. I feel inspired. One thing I love about podcasting and meeting other professionals is that I come out of it going, I just want to get back in there and start teaching and get my studio going good. I want to open the
Heck yeah.
door quicker next time. Yeah. So I really appreciate what you're doing, all that you're bringing to the table. Thank you so much, man. It's
You
needed.
bet, Todd.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.